بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So now we've mentioned our Sahih, Hasan, we've mentioned the Gharib, Mashhur, Aziz, Gharib, Mutawatir, the Ahad, the Mutawatir. So now we're looking at, if we have one hadith, one matan, particularly one matan. Remember, when we say hadith, hadith can refer to, hadith is really supposed to refer to the matan and the sanad together. But we don't call it matan. You don't really see the word matan. You just say hadith, and hadith can refer to the matan as well. So you have to understand what the context is. So you have one matan. Sometimes you have ziyada, sometimes you have mukhalafah. What does that mean? Ziyada, you have an extra wording, and we'll have an analysis at the end, inshallah. Like the one we done in Mishkat al-Masabi. We says here, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That was the normal standard in all the narrations. And the other narration had what? Wa maghfiratuhu. So that's a ziyada, it's an extra wording. Is that maqbul, is that acceptable or not? We have to understand the principles here. And mukhalaf, so ziyada is something extra, but it's not contrary. It's extra wording. And mukhalafa is contrary, like you can't reconcile between two of them. You understand? You following me? Yes? So let's say, for example, let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, let's say, for example, there's a story. Let's forget hadith. Let's say, for example, if you say, for example, somebody said, the family went to Makkah Mukarramah. That's one narration. And the other narration is, the family went to Makkah Mukarramah and Madinah Munawwara. Is that ziyada or mukhalafa? That's ziyada, because going to Makkah and Medina is not contradictory to going to Makkah. But if the one narration says he went to Makkah and the other narration says he went to Medina, what's this going to be? Mukhalafa, it can't be both. Well, you might say that maybe he meant both on one narrator, but you get what I'm saying. Once he went to Makkah in summer, and once he went to India in summer. I went to Pakistan, or he went to Malaysia, or Indonesia, or Barbados, or America. So he said, well, he can't have gone, because if he went both places. But let's say, for example, on Monday the 1st of July, he went, what? Where was he? So one says Makkah, one says in India. So then now you say, well, it can't be both places, it's mukhalafa. So this is how we're looking at it. So if we have one narration, and you can have ziyada, you can have mukhalafa, and then we're going to do two new words, shahid and mutabi and mutaba'a, inshallah. So let's have a look here. وَزِيَادَةُ رَاوِيهِمَا مَقْبُولَةٌ. If in the narrator, who is Tamuz Zabt, because who narrates Hasan al-Sahih? Tamuz Zabt and Khafif al-Zabt. So if a Tamuz Zabt narrator or a Khafif al-Zabt narrator, they do ziyada. What do they do? Ziyada. Not mukhalaf, what do they do? Ziyada. They have additional words. He says maqbula. So ziyadatu rawihima maqbulatun. The additional wording of a narrator from Sahih and Hasan. So any narrator whose hadith, he's accepted as a narrator in Sahih and Hadith, and any narrator who's accepted as a rawi from the Sahih Hadith and the Hasan Hadith, meaning he's what? Tamuz Zabt and Khafifuz Zabt. We've done this already from Bayquniya. Okay? Level is A plus or A, narrator. Then we will say here, he is now, their additional word is maqbool. You following? Make sense? Ma, what's this ma here? This is ma. Ma'na ma dama, as long as. Ma lam taqa munafiyatan. As long as that ziyadati is not contradictory. Contradictory. So what's this is saying here? This is what? This is ziyada. And this is what? What's this going to be? Mukhalafa. So ziyada of a tamuz zabt or ziyada of a khafiful zabt is maqbool. And as long as it does not occur contradictory to the man who awthaq. If it's mukhalafa, then you have a problem. And within mukhalafa already in Bayquniya. So if you look at it here, so even this, it's not like, some have said it's maqbool, some have said it's certain conditions, but you have to look at it like different things. Like, again, remember, like the thing with hadith is not just like nahwa. If you learn a rule that all hal are going mansoob, that's it, you sorted. Because this is like those are abstract sciences. So when abstract sciences, like it will fit in all scenarios. It will fit all the time. When you have here, you're dealing with you have like a case by case. You can have a general rule, but let's say for example, you might have. What can happen? Maybe you say, well, you went to the teacher. When you went there, he didn't give you these additional words. Maybe he made it shortened. He shortened the hadith. He wasn't really, he wasn't giving a long lecture then. So he shortened the hadith. He gave you the small part. And there's actual additional wording. You get it? Maybe he narrated, he has his narration from two different teachers, and he merged the narration together. When he narrated it once, he narrated the full narration. But sometimes you could have a scenario where he says, you know what? Let's say, for example, there were three students, all of Tamu Zabt, right? And they all went to the Shaykh and heard it once from the Shaykh. And the same majlis, and then they all left together. If there's a ziyadati there, what would that be? That could be questionable, isn't it? So you have like a circumstances. If they heard at different times, because it was possible they heard at different times and the teacher gave different information, or give a bit more, a bit less. But if it's the same exact gathering, nobody heard anything apart from that, and then they both left, all three of them left, then you have to look at it a bit differently. So this is a rule of thumb that it's maqboola, but you just can't make a blanket statement for everything. So just I'll give you an example. You have to look at certain other circumstances as well. So if you look at it here, okay, so look at it here. Look at example here. Example of Ziyada. So you have Malik and Abu Zinad and Al-A'raj. This is also a very common chain. So Malik narrates from Abu Zinad, from A'raj, from Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا شرب الكلب, when a dog drinks from a container, فليغسله سبع مرات, then you should wash it 7 times. Then you should wash it 7 times. So now this is Imam Malik's narration from Abu Zinad. Imam Nasa'i narrates from Malik. He says, Qutayba narrates from Malik, same hadith, شرب الكلب في إناء أحدكم فليغسله 7 مرات. Imam Bukhari, he's got a narration from Abdullah ibn Yusuf, from Imam Malik, and all of them have إذا شرب الكلب في إناء فليغسله 7 مرات, wash it 7 times. Imam Muslim has got it from Yahya ibn Yahya. He says, I read to Malik, and he says here, إذا شرب الكلب في إناء أحدكم. So basically, all of these that go through Malik, rahimahullah, it says you must wash it 7 times. That's all it has. Okay, there's one narration. So Imam Malik narrates it, and then Imam Nasa'i, Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, they all narrate it from the tariq of Imam Malik, rahimahullah. You follow it? So far, so good? Yes? Yeah? Okay. Now if you look at another narration of Imam Malik, Imam Muslim, rahmatullah alayhi, this doesn't go through Imam Malik. This is Muhammad ibn Rafi, Abdul Razak, from Ma'mar, from Hammam ibn Munabbih. And he said, this is what Abu Hurairah told us from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, Tuhuri ina'i ahadikum idha walagha al-kalbu fihi an yaghsilahu 7 marrat. So now the wording is slightly different, but it has the same meaning. So now this is ziyada, meaning, like, it's got a bit additional wording, but it's not mukhalafa. And there's no difference in meaning anyways. Okay? Similarly happened in another hadith here. However, in the fourth narration of Imam Muslim, from Zuhair ibn Harb, from Ismail ibn Ibrahim, Hisham ibn Hassan, Muhammad ibn Sirin, from Abu Hurairah as well. So they all go through Abu Hurairah. All from Abu Hurairah, yes? They're all from Abu Hurairah. What happens here? Tuhuri ina'i ahadikum, the cleanliness of the container is sab'a marrat, ulahunna biturab. What's this now happening here? What's this becoming now? Is it a ziyada or mukhalafa? It's a ziyada. Because all of them say much 7 times. And the other one says here, the first of them must be what? With you scrub it down with some soil. Because that's a soap. Basically, that's the soap you use in no time. Rub it with soil, and the soil will what? Absorb all the germs or whatever, and you rub it around, clean it, and then you wash it out again. So you wash it 7 times to cleanse it. And then what do? You put soil inside, and then you just clean it up. So the first time, this is ziyada. So again, it's lots of detail. This is basically we're studying the surface. There's so much more to go through. Don't become a muhadditha by doing one book of hadith and one book of usul. There's so much more to learn. But you just get the principles, you get an understanding of the terms, and then you can start analyzing each hadith in more detail. There's so much more to learn. This is the tip of the iceberg. Okay, and even within there's so much more ikhtilaf and discussions to be had, but not at this level. Okay? So now this is ziyada, and we say here that the ruwat in Muslim are thiqa, so this is going to be maqboola. Even if it's not thiqa, it's hasan at least. Whether the khafif al-zab or ta'am al-zab, minimum the khafif al-zab, because we know that Imam Muslim is sahih. And even if you have a question on any hadith, the worst is going to go down to hasan. So none of the rawis will lower than khafif al-zab. None of them. So therefore, this is ziyadatul rawi hima. Is ziyada of a rawi will be maqbool. So therefore, ulahunna bitarab, you will say this word is established. Are you following? Okay? You following? Everybody understand? So if you look at it here now, So if you look at the summary, so we have one hadith with one sanad. That's going to be what? What's that going to be? A gharib hadith, yes? Correct? If we have more than one sanad, okay, more than one sanad, if they have ittifaq, mean the same meaning, or it can have contrary meanings, right? When it says sanadan, it means sanadan for akthar, two or more sanad for akthar, right? Either there's no tanafi, there's no contradiction, this is ziyada, or it can have ziyada and mukhalafa, it's a contradiction, they can't fit together, correct? When it has ittifaq, more than one sanad, it's either going to be what now? It becomes mashhoor, or aziz, or, well, this is going to be, or mutawatir probably, possibly. And this becomes what? This remains gharib. Correct? If you have more than one sanad, and they have differences, then we say here what? It's either going to be mahfuz or shaaz. Within that, we do it again in coming up the following text, but coming up later on, mahfuz or shaaz, or ma'aruf or munkar. And that's coming up, we've done already by Qunya, but it's coming up shortly. I will continue from here tomorrow, inshallah. Okay, assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. So yesterday we were discussing when you have multiple chains and you have a thiqa narrator narrating something, either mukhalafa or ziyada. We had a few examples of those yesterday. Now, so I have a summary again. So you have one sanad. So you have matan. So look at we have one matan, and you can either have one sanad or you can have more than one sanad. Sanadani fa'akthar, more than one sanad. Now, if these two sanad, they have the exact same wording, or there's no difference, like there's no mukhalafa, etc. That's one possibility. Or they have ikhtilaf, there's a difference in them. So we here. So if you have no tanafi, if you have what? No tanafi, there's no contradiction, then what do we call this? And then you have tanafi. So if we have here, there's no tanafi, you call this here ziyadatu thiqa. Ziyadatu thiqa. So if a thiqa narrator narrates it with extra wording, that's called ziyadatu thiqat. And if there's what? Different wording, and it's not mergeable, you can't merge it, it's either yes or no, or black or white, or Monday or Tuesday, it can't merge together, then it's called mukhalafatu thiqat. And when we discussed this before, we said you have two types, depends on who is doing the mukhalafa of whom. So you can have mahfuz and you have shaadh. So when the thiqa is doing a narration contrary to somebody who's awthaq or more thiqat, that's called shaadh and mahfuz, within that in Bayquni already. And if the narrator is khafif al-dhabt and he's doing mukhalafa of a thiqa, then you have his munkar, and the other one's called ma'aruf. Correct? Remember we've done that before? We called from Bayquni. Okay? So for example, that's what he's saying, he's explaining in text here. So for in khulifa, so if the text is mentioning here, if they have multiple narrations, if there's mukhalafa, because in the previous text it said, ma lam yaqa minhu munafat, as long as no munafat or no contradiction. If there's contradiction in a way you can't merge it together, then فَإِنْ خُولِفَ بِأَرْجَحَ فَالرَّاجِحَ الْمَحْفُوظ وَمُقَابِلُهُ الشَّاذ. Okay? So if there's mukhalafa in both narrations with the arjah, so then the rajih, so basically mean with some kind of rujhan, we can give one preference over the other. And how do we get preference over the other? One of two ways. You have a thiqa on one side, and you have an awthaq on the other side. It is possible that the thiqa got it right, the awthaq got it wrong, it's possible, but we can't go down that route. We have to say, well, we will trust him, we'll have to trust him more, he will have preference. Or another way is you have thiqa, you have a thiqa on one side, he's narrating one, and you have multiple thiqat on the other side. Then if there's so what will happen now? In this case, these will be given preference. فَإِنْ خُولِفَ بِأَرْجَةٍ, if there is mukhalafa, and the mukhalafa occurs, this is arjah, this is arjah, this is more, this is arjah, and rajih, this is more weighty, this is marjuh, this side is marjuh, the one that is like lower part, this is less preferred. So you have like a scale or seesaw. So the one that's high is called arjah, and the one that's low is called marjuh, or the rajih and the marjuh. So the one that is either the awthaq or the thiqat, that will be the mahfuz, وَمُقَابِلُهُ الشاذ. And the muqabil is going to be shaz. So then in this example, we will say this riwayat will be shaz, and these riwayat will be what? Mahfuz. You following? Yes, we've done this already. Any questions regarding this so far? وَمَعَ الضَّعْفِ فَالرَّاجِحُ الْمَعْرُوفُ. وَمَعَ الضَّعْفِ. And if there's ضعف, meaning what? If one is ضعيف, meaning what? Let's say go over here, we have same scenario. We have خفيف الضبط خفيف الضبط versus الثقة. So now then this will be called what? This will be called munkar, and this will be called what? This will be called munkar, and this will be called ma'ruf. Yes? So وَمَعَ الضَّعْفِ فَالرَّاجِحُ الْمَعْرُوفُ. If there's weakness, one is called, the one that is given preference called ma'ruf, and the other one is called munkar. Okay, we've done this already by kunya. We do the same example again, just just to refresh. So this is an example of, so we have a narrator here, that's Sa'ib ibn Jathama. He said he gave the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam some meat when he's in ihram, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ate from it, and the people ate from it. And this narration, we narrate from Amr ibn Umayyah al-Dhamri. We have all these narrators here, and this narrator is Khafif al-Dhabt, and this narrator is also Khafif al-Dhabt. So now, the Khafif al-Dhabt narrator said the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ate from the wild animal in a state of ihram. Okay? And the next narrator we have here, it says here, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam raddahu, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam refused to eat it. And then Prophet explained to him that I'm not being bad to you, but we can't eat it when in ihram. So in this narrator, we have all of these narrators we have Shafi'i, Malik, and Zuhri. From Ubaydullah. So this is Shafi'i, Malik, Zuhri. You can tell this is a thiqah. So now, this is an example of, the top one is what? Khafif al-Dhabt. So that's going to be munkar, and this is going to be ma'ruf. And if, for example, argument's sake, if the top one was, let's say they weren't Khafif al-Dhabt, let's say they were Tam al-Dhabt, that would have been Shaadh, and this would have been ma'ruf. Mahfuz, sorry, this is mahfuz. Everybody understand? Yes, is it clear to everybody? Again, we did this already by Quni, that's why we're not going too deep into it. And then you see many of these. Once you got the idea, you know what Shaadh, what ma'ruf, Shaadh and ma'ruf, and Shaadh and mahfuz. It makes them Shaadh and mahfuz, and munkar and ma'ruf. Okay? Understood? Everybody following? Okay, so let's go on now. This is something new that was not mentioned in Bayquniya. If we have sanadun wahid, what do we have? One sanad. Or we have two or more sanad. Now, what can happen? We have a sanad, right? We have a hadith, one matan, sorry, you have one matan. So this is all do with one matan, right? One text. Whether the words are the same or the meaning is the same. We are a bit flexible here, not exact words, but the meaning. Now, if you have two or more chains, so we have a matan, okay? We have a matan, then we have a chain. Okay. Now, if this chain, we have multiple chains. So let's say, for example, this is scenario here. We have three sanad, and the matan starts with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam here, from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Are you following me? So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, regarding his statement, his action, there's a matan. And then we have three different chains, all the way to the Sahabi. All the way to the Sahabi. Now what do we say here? This hadith is going to become what? This hadith is what? Is it khabar ahad or mutawatir? It's going to be classified as what? The ahad. Correct? And because we have three Sahabi narrating, it's going to be called what? What's it going to be called? What's it going to be called if it's three or more? Correct, it's called mashhur. Now what we say here is that what we do, we label each of these, and we say each of these is a shahid. What is it? Each of these is a shahid to the other. So this is a shahid for this is a shahid for this. Either way around, they're all shahid, meaning they're all testifying that yes, this sahabi and the other sahabi and the other chain is like, it's true, it's right, because the same text, the narrative, so each is carrying the same matan. And it doesn't have to be exact same words, it may have similar words or a similar meaning. You following? So in this case, you call this what? You call this is called this is called what? A shahid. I got a mistake here. So that example I gave you was the example of a shahid. Let's take another example. Let's say we have a sanad. Sorry, we have a matan. Okay, we have a matan. And the matan has the end of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Let's say, for example, we have one sahabi. We have one sahabi. Right? So we have a chain. There's one sahabi. And then from there we have one tabi'i. And from the tabi'i, we have a split. We have another, the chain goes into two. So it's one sahabi, one tabi'i, for example, but the split happens somewhere after the sahabi. So let's say here, let's do it again. So we have a matan. From the matan, we have one sahabi. We have a sahabi. Okay, one sahabi, a single sahabi. And somewhere after the sahabi, there's a split. And it could be immediately afterwards. For example, you have two chains in the sahabi. Are you following me? What do you have? You have two chains in the sahabi. You understand? So we have we have two narrators in the sahabi, or we have two narrators from one of the tabi'i. Or we have, goes down the line, and you have two from him. So if there's a split anywhere down the line, then this is called, then the where the split occurs. So for example here, there's A and B. They are what? It's called mutabi'. The A and B are in mutabi', taba, following. So it's the same thing as the shahid, same concept, it's different names. Are you following me? So this becomes a mutabi' of the other. This one here, 1 and 2, become mutabi' of the other. This alif and ba become mutabi' of one another. Are you following? So if you have one sahabi, and after the sahabi you have multiple, the chain is split, then the way the chain splits is called a mutabi'. And if you have more than one sahabi, then each chain is a shahid for the other. So basically we're talking about, we have more than one chain, they have the same meaning, then we have two different names. If the supporting evidence is support from the sahabi's level onwards, then each chain is called a shahid for the other. And if the supporting evidence comes after the sahabi, then wherever it splits, then one becomes a mutabi' of another. Okay? So, we went through this last time. Let me give an example here. We have Malik. Okay? We have a hadith here from Malik rahimahullah. So Malik narrates from Nafi'. Nafi' narrates from Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu, anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam dhakara Ramadan. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned Ramadan. And he said, لا تصوموا حتى تروا الهلال. Don't fast until you see the hilal, and don't break your fast until you see the hilal. And if you can't see the moon, then just complete 30 days of فَقْدُرُوا له, meaning just assume it to be 30 days. This is the concept of the hadith. Yes? Understood? This is the main gist of the hadith. So in this hadith, who do we have? We have Malik narrates from Nafi', and Nafi' narrates from Abdullah ibn Umar from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay. That's Imam Malik. So Imam Malik because of Muwatta. So in Muwatta, Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi, in Muwatta, Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi states this. Imam Ahmad rahmatullah alayhi in his book Musnad, what does he say? حدثنا إسماعيل قال أخبرنا أيوب النافع. Now what's happening here now? What's happening here? So if you look at it here, we have, so if you look at it, let's go on the side here. We have Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, okay? What's happening here? Allahumma salli ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay, you have Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yes? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay? Who's narrating from him? Who's narrating from him? Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu. Who's narrating from him? In both chains? Nafi'. Who's narrating from Nafi'? Is split. We have Malik rahimahullah, and then we have Ayyub rahimahullah. So now you see here the narration of Malik and the narration of Ayyub are a mutabi' to each other. So what does this do? This gives us strength. For example, it gives us strength, and it gives us itminan, and it gives us a bit of peace of mind. Just for argument's sake, that maybe Malik didn't hear correctly, maybe Malik misunderstood, maybe it could possibly. But now we know Ayyub also heard the same thing from Nafi'. So now what do we have? We have a level of certainty increases. That no, Nafi' said these words or said this meaning. Do you understand? So now we know both Malik and Ayyub, both of them narrated the same thing from Nafi'. So the narration of Ayyub is a mutabi' of the narration of Malik, and Malik's narration is a mutabi' of Ayyub's. Are you following? You got it? Is that clear? Yes, everybody understand this? Why this is a mutabi, Ayub and Malik, you see here. So between the two of these, this is what? They've done mutaba'ah. They have done mutaba'ah, the verb. They have done mutaba'ah of one another, meaning they both follow the same path to Nafi. Understood? Is it clear to everybody? Now, if we move on here, we have another hadith. Imam Ahmad rahmatullah alayhi says it. حدثنا محمد بن بشر قال حدثنا عبيد الله بن عمر. This is also a very common sanad. عن أبي الزناد عن الأعرج عن أبي هريرة. A very common sanad. Now what's happening here? Where should I add Abu Hurairah? Abu Hurairah comes here. You have Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. What do you have here? Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. So now, what's the narration of Abu Hurairah and Abdullah ibn Umar? What will we say regarding them? This is the shahid. They're shahid for one another. Now what does this give us? Now because of this, in the mutaba'ah, it gives us itminan that Nafi said these words. It gives us more, we trust Malik anyways, because we know from his history and his record that he's a very good narrator. He understands and he preserves and he narrates, transmits correctly. But just it gives us more that even Ayub said the same thing from Nafi. But what about Nafi? What if Nafi made a mistake from Abdullah ibn Umar? So that still remains. But when it comes to Abdullah ibn Umar, he heard from the Prophet ﷺ, and Abu Hurairah, he's also narrating the same thing. So where do we get? Where is our source? Where's the strength of that? The Prophet did say something like this, meaning what? You fast when you see the hilal, you break the fast when you see the hilal, and if you don't see the hilal, then you just complete 30 days. And obviously, I'm not in the fiqh of this masala, just the hadith. Are you following? Then another hadith, Imam Ahmad rahmatullah alayhi narrates, Ishaq ibn Isa, and he says here, Qais ibn Talq narrates from his father. And he said the same meaning here, that what? Sumu li ru'yatihi, aftiru li ru'yatihi, and if you can't see it, then complete the thing. So now we have here, Qais ibn Talq, another narration here. You have here, Qais ibn Talq. Yes? So this is also another, it's now all of these now. I haven't got it here, but it's also another narration from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu. You have here also Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Abbas. So all of these are what? These are. So in terms of, is this ahad? Or is this? Let's argue for the thing now. This is the only 1, 2, 3, 4 have narrated this. Is this ahad or is this mutawatir? Is it ahad or is it mutawatir? Is it ahad? What is it going to be? What are the 3 types of ahad? Mashhur, Aziz and Gharib. What would this fall under which category? Mashhur. Okay. Another point I want to mention here. This Rawi, Muhammad ibn Jabir, he's da'if. We're just going to say that the narrative said that he's da'if. So he's not da'if, he's khafiful dhabt. He's khafiful dhabt, yes? So what is this hadith going to be in terms of sahih or in that aspect? What's this going to be, this hadith? Hasan what? Hasan no? Hasan li? Well, she said Hasan li ghayrihi. So it depends now here. How weak is he? Is he khafiful dhabt or is he like very weak? So if he is, I didn't look at that, I didn't even think about that when I looked at it. So he says he's da'if. Now how da'if is it? I don't know. If he's very, very weak, if he's just khafiful dhabt, what will it be? If he's khafiful dhabt, what will this hadith be? Hasan li dhatihi. And if he's very, and then it moves up to what? What does it move up to? Hasan li dhatihi improves to what? Sahih li ghayrihi. Why is it sahih li ghayrihi? Because it has additional information. Are you following? And if he was very weak, meaning like, very, very weak, then what would it be? It would be what? In itself, it would be what? Originally da'if, but it improves to what? Hasan li ghayrihi. But I didn't check. I just said da'if and I didn't check what the da'f was and what kind of, how weak it was. What about this hadith? Hadith, the first one, Malik and Nafi and Abdullah ibn Umar. What's the rating of that in the same aspect? What's that going to be? Sahih li dhatihi. Okay. You following so far? Good? Now, so even though this hadith, so what will happen now? Another word we can learn here as well. is you have a hadith which is mashhur. And I don't think we discussed this, so we say it's not mutawatir, is it? Because only 4 Sahabi narrated. However, there's also one thing called mutawatir lafzi, mutawatir lafzi, meaning this word is mutawatir. For example, man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu minan nar. Many Sahabi have narrated this. But there's also one thing about mutawatir amali. What's it called? Mutawatirun what? Mutawatirun amaliyun. What is it? Or mutawatirun tabaqiyun. Tabaqiyun mean tabaqa, one layer after the other. What does that mean? There's no words. Like this word is only mashhur, but the amal. Has anybody from the ummah from the Sahaba, Tabi'in, Tabu Tabi'in, until this hadith became widespread, practiced something different to this? No. Everybody had this thing. You look for the moon. The days are basically a lunar calendar. Everybody used a lunar calendar in the earlier, in the Sahaba's time, Tabi'un's time, Tabu Tabi'in's time. They all use a lunar calendar. You look for the moon. You don't see the moon. Then it's 30 days. So this is what, in terms of amal, what is this? In terms of amal, mutawatir amalan. Do you understand? Because none of the Sahaba have ever gone against amal. Meaning, in terms of, I'm not trying to discuss the moon debate that we have in England here. I'm just talking about generally. Yes, in normal climate where you are under equator, whatever. This is mutawatir amali. This when you say mutawatir amali means, so if somebody rejects this, this is like this is very, very dopey to reject this amal. Yes. Now, obviously, what does ru'ya mean, etc., etc. That's a whole different fiqh masala. I'm not going to the hadith. Okay, so this is now mashhur. In terms of love, is mutawatir in amal. The lunar calendar is a mutawatir in amal. Okay, and then we have mutaba'a, and then we have here shahid. Understood? Everybody following me? Does this hadith have ziyada? You can say hadith have ziyada. Where's ziyada? We can say has ziyada. For example, here this has ziyada as well, because here it has innama ash-shahru tis'un wa tish'un. The month is this has a bit ziyada here. إذا رأيت, so it is ziyada in different words, yes. Then we say whose words do we give preference to? But here, this ziyada, people won't worry about too much because there's no different in meaning. In the one we done previously, ulahunna bit-turab, you have to do the first, you have to put it in soil. That's going to change the way you amal on the hadith. So these wording, even the ziyada, it's different wording, but they all give the same meaning. So the muhaddithun or the fuqaha they're not going to be too concerned about the ziyada. Yes? And you can see why there's different wording as well. Because, like, for example, let's say, is this mas'ala, one mas'ala that will only come about once in the Prophet, in the Sahaba's lifetime? The moon mas'ala, the hilal mas'ala. He probably said it many times, isn't it? The Prophet ﷺ. Because at least before Ramadan, at least before the Hajj, at least in every month, they look at keeping the calendar. So he may have said this in multiple times, and he may have expressed the words in different words. So that's why you have a multiple variation of words. The Prophet may have said it multiple times, and narrated differently according to what they heard. And even the Sahaba may have this, look at the meaning and translate. And this also gives us another masala. You can narrate in meaning as well. If the person understands correctly, you don't have to get the exact words, you can narrate in meaning. That's another masala we do later on, inshallah. So if you understood here, so we have here a mutaba'a, and we have a shahid, and then we have a few other, side issues that we discussed. So this is what he's saying here. Wal fardun nisbi. He's saying a fard nisbi, it can also be fard mutlaq, even the Hasha people say fard mutlaq as well. If you got a fard mutlaq, in wafaqahu ghayruhu fahuwa al-mutabi'. So if you have anybody in the chain who is wafaqa to agree, ghayruhu, somebody else agrees with him, then those become mutabi', one becomes mutabi' of the other. Wa in wajida matnun yushbihuhu. If there is another matn, meaning what? There is a matn and from another sahabi altogether, فَهُوَ shahid, then that becomes a shahid. وَإِن وُجِدَ مَتْنٌ يُشْبِهُ. It is another matn, either the same matn or resembling it. أي يشبه في اللفظ أو المعنى فهو shahid. Then this becomes what? A shahid. Okay? You got it? Correct? And then what we just done, the amal of what? وَتَتَبُّؤُ الطُّرُقِ. And analyzing or searching, or researching researching or looking for multiple طرق لذلك, to do what? To look for, وتتبع الطرق, looking or researching for multiple chains. So researching or looking for multiple chains for that purpose, هو الاعتبار. What we done in the previous amal, that's called اعتبرنا. We done اعتبار. We compared many chains to see the متابعة, to see the شاهد. That amal is called اعتبار. What's that amal called? اعتبار. Understood? So in today's lesson, what do we had? We had the shahid, is when you have one chain, when you have a sahabi, another sahabi, narrating something similar to another sahabi. Okay? You following? Yes? Any questions here?